There's only one thing that's running through my soul, and that
is... Hey, happy hump day. Happy Wednesday, y'all. We were just laughing about something in the background, but I'm not going to repeat it. But I do want to welcome y'all to the Crimson Dynasty. We are one of the shows here on the Bama Standard Network. And before we get started, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any content, because we are dropping videos throughout the week. Now, before we get started, my name is Sishi. I'm the host here, and we do have two awesome co-hosts. We have JB, and he actually has another show that he's going to mention later on in this show. And then we have Dan James IV, who also has another show here on the network, so he'll mention that later. So I want to shout everyone out that's already here. Be sure to hit up the live chat, because we do like to engage with the fans. It's gonna be a hot show tonight. Y'all know we have a lot to talk about, so go ahead and drop your comments, and also drop some questions, because we're gonna have our Q&A segment towards the end. So go ahead and drop any questions that you may have, and we'll be sure to get to it. But like I said, we got a hot show tonight. We didn't make the playoffs, so of course we're going to talk about that. But before we get started, I do want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Limestone Company. So if you've been looking to add a beautiful natural stone in or around your home, but you don't want to settle for subpar materials, check out Limestone Company's natural selection of stone. They're located in Oneonta, Alabama, and they're one of the oldest and most trusted sources in the state. So contact them today. Tell them that we sent you by using promo code the Bama Standard to receive 10% off of your first order. Now, before we get started, if you're watching us on X right now, be sure to head over to our YouTube channel, the Bama Standard, and subscribe. This is we have a lot of shows here on the Bama Standard Network, but this one in particular, we keep it real. Like, y'all ain't gonna be in our chat talking slick, because I know I've seen a lot lately about us not making the playoffs, so we ain't gonna have none of that tonight. If we do, then we got time tonight. We'll have to let y'all know. But first things first, I just want to talk about us not making the playoffs. One of the questions that came up is basically, were our hopes too high? Did we feel like we really had a chance? I've been seeing that kind of circling around. And for me personally, I don't believe our hopes are too high. I think that, as we've seen with the playoff committee, they kind of pick and choose which rules they're going to adhere to every single year, right? Like, one year strength of schedule may matter, another year it may not matter. And so it just seems like it changes. But the reason why I mention that is because we had, I believe, like the number 16 as far as strength of schedule. SMU was like 60, not to make any excuses, because we did lose 3 games, but it's just interesting how you see certain rules apply each year or every other year. It seems like it alternates to me. But I want to get y'all's takes on something, because I remember hearing, of course, Booger, the Ninja Turtle, the one who likes to always run his mouth about Alabama. He had some words to say regarding Alabama not making the playoffs, and was basically saying that we felt like that Alabama should have been in because of our brand. And I was so happy to hear Kirk Herbstreit basically check him and let him know that that's essentially low-hanging fruit. Like, for one, it's not even worth mentioning that. We all know that the bigger schools, they bring in more money, but at the same time, we know that Booger, he has a history of this, right? Like, he sat up there and cried about Florida State not making it in last year. And I believe that that's one of the main reasons why SMU made it in this year, for that very reason, just looking at the number of wins. But I want to get y'all's takes on this. And I'll start with you, JB, on this one. What are your thoughts as far as, did you feel like maybe it was kind of like wishful thinking to think that we could make the playoffs? And then how do you feel about Kirk Herbstreit and Booger's exchange?
Well, me personally, my hopes wasn't too high. Mm-hmm. I wasn't expecting us to make the playoffs, and I even said it a week ago. But it is what it is. I think some of the fans, like most of the fan base, we're Bama, so the standard is the standard. So we expect to make the playoffs and compete for titles each and every year. So we just had to temper those expectations a little bit. And when you lose 3 games, especially 3 conference games, it means something. Like, we're the best conference, of course, SEC, but it's just it's tough. It's a dog fight each and every week in the SEC. And I know Booker and Kurt was having their exchange. Nick Saban had an argument that, okay, we have the best strength of schedule. So that was really the only argument we had was the strength of schedule argument. But that's not the only argument when it comes to placing teams in the playoffs. You had a SMU that made their conference title game, went undefeated in the conference, lost the conference title game by 3 points. So you really couldn't hold them out. And they already said earlier on that they wasn't going to punish the teams for making the conference championship and having to play another game. So with them saying all of that, and the week prior, they also mentioned, well, they didn't mention that it was a play-in game. It wasn't a play-in game. It was okay, if SMU wins, Clemson's definitely out. Alabama's in. But if Clemson wins, we got to reevaluate. How did SMU look? Did they get blown out? Did they lose close? All right, they lost a close game. They're in. So I had no problem with it, no issues. Now, Booker has an ulterior motive. You know, Booker always has his motives, and he don't like Alabama, so we know that. But you're right, too, C. Florida State got left out last year. The ACC threatened to sue, right? So if they got left out again, all hell was going to break loose. All hell was going to break loose. That's why I said it was kind of, I said they had to appease the ACC this time. You cannot put a 3-loss Alabama over was undefeated going into that game, undefeated in the conference. They lost. You couldn't lose. So I feel like they got it right. Bama fans, we didn't make it. It's always next year.
Yeah, and I feel what you're saying, JB, but at the same time, I feel like it's just a contradiction from the playoff committee. It's just a huge contradiction because how can you, what's the purpose of having conference championship games? What's the purpose of having that if you're going to sit there and say, well, for the loser, they won't be impacted? Then why have it? That's number one. Number two, how can you say, okay, well, if SMU were to beat Clemson, it doesn't make sense because if SMU would have beat Clemson, they would have been in for sure, of course, Clemson out. But then if Clemson went, none of it makes sense. They're contradicting themselves. They were too weak to actually say, okay, Alabama is still one of the top 12 teams because we are. They're too weak. And my thing is what needs to happen is they need to sit down and figure out how do we even select the people to be on the committee? Because you can't have people that are weak like that. What are you worried about? Okay, Florida State set up their barking about filing lawsuits. They still got to pay the $500 million to get out of the ACC. They ain't filing no lawsuits. You know, you can't be weak if you're going to be on a committee like that. You're trying. Of course, I understand that it's complex, but at the same time, no one cares because you signed up for that job. Who cares about hurting SMU's feelings? Because to me, you have an Alabama team that have beaten 3 ranked opponents in the top 25, but then you have an SMU that hasn't beaten any ranked teams. So to me, it's the argument in and of itself, Coach Saban was right. Now he did, hold the coaches accountable in regard to, okay, well, you can't sit up there and whine and cry because you should have done what you should have done throughout the season. And he's right by what he said. And I get that Oklahoma loss sucked, but at the same time, we're still a top 12 team. Now, Dan, I want to get your take on that. So I just mentioned the fact that Alabama, we beat 3 top 25 schools. SMU lost both of the ones that they played. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like maybe our hopes were too high as far as making the playoff, or do you feel like the committee's decision had more to do with how things played out last year with Florida State?
There's a lot of different answers to that. Okay. One, was our hopes too high? I would say yes, but let me say the committee, They showed one thing, that strength of schedule doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. That's the one clear message that they sent. Mm-hmm. So I believe without a doubt that Alabama one of the 12 best teams in the country. But, however, on Alabama's end, there is no team in the college football playoff right now that lost 2 games that they shouldn't have lost. Just to keep it real, there's no team you can make the argument. We got 3 top 25 wins. No other team has that. But, we also have 2 ugly losses. Yeah. No other team in the college football playoff has that. So, you beat Vandy. You win one of those 2 games and you
yeah.
end. So,
yeah.
We still, even after the Vandy loss, we still controlled our destiny.
Yeah.
We pulled that we pulled in Oklahoma. You know, that right there sealed our fate. So, you know, we can't get anyone but ourselves.
Yep. I agree. And then I'll pose that question to the audience as well. What do y'all think? Do y'all feel like maybe we kind of, had high hopes, or do you feel like it's spoiled Alabama fans, like some of these little raggedy people from other schools are saying, or do you feel like, it's just kind of once Alabama, look, Auburn, you're an Auburn fan. Like, look, y'all been in the conversation y'all haven't been in the conversation regarding a national championship since what, 2013? Right? 2013? Yeah, no, I agree with JM12 Green. Yeah, that loss at Oklahoma, that did it. That definitely did it. And I think that post-game show that we did, I remember I went off on that one, but I did because I knew I had a feeling. I was like, the committee, a lot of times they try to find reasons to keep Alabama out, and that right there, that kind of sealed it. But I was hoping that they would still look at the fact that we still beat, a few top 25 teams. But anyway, Dan, you mentioned something that was a good segue into our next topic, because our athletic director, Greg Byrne, he actually released a statement, regarding his feelings about us being left out of the top 12. And you mentioned something where you said, the strength of schedule basically doesn't matter. And Greg Byrne, he was basically saying we're going to have to really assess these Power 4 non-conference games going forward. Honestly, what we should do as far as non-conference games, all in-state, Alabama State, UAB. I mean, I'm for real, Troy, South Alabama, like seriously, because it really, like, the only other option is to pull a Florida State and just say, okay, well, we're going to lead. Now, ACC is not all that to me, but to just say, okay, we're going to lead the conference then. I mean, if that's how y'all are looking at it, then why not make it easier for us during the regular season if y'all going to, you're not going to take into account the strength of schedule. So then we have our athletic director. He stated that, and I agree with him. I'm kind of surprised that this wasn't considered sooner, but Dan, I want to get your take since you mentioned strength of schedule. How do you feel about the response from Greg Byrne? Do you feel like, because I noticed the timing, and if I remember correctly, his statement regarding that came after Coach Saban made his statement about, Alabama being left out and strength of schedule and all of that. Do you feel like maybe Greg Byrne, do you feel like that was more so like him almost like echoing what Coach Saban was saying, or do you feel like we're going to legit look into ways to mitigate this in the future?
No, I think it was more so him echoing what Coach Saban was saying. Mm-hmm. But, from a fan perspective, you don't want to go see Alabama play Coastal Carolina. You want to see a Ohio State come to Bryant Denny. You know what I'm saying? As a fan, as Alabama, we are still the standard in college football. So, we shouldn't shy away from the competition. It's just the way the committee looks at it. We're still Alabama, regardless. I think we should play who we want to play. Because we're Bama. A lot of teams, it's hard to fill out the schedule. A lot of teams not lining up the players, so we thankful for the teams, the tough non-conference games that we had, the teams that scheduled it against us. But, everybody's not lining up to play Alabama. But more so now since the Bandit loss, teams won't shy away from that now. So, but, the committee, they have to set a precedent on how, they're going to formula. Well, let's just go back to the BCS formula. Let the computers make it easier.
Yep. I've been saying that.
Yeah, that'll make it a whole lot easier because, they'll take away the human error, because I think this was like, okay, we can't afford to leave the ACC out again, a word the ACC, so it is what it is, but it's our fault that we're not, in the playoffs, not putting it on anyone else. We have to win the game that we're supposed to win.
Yeah. And you mentioned BCS. I know when they first introduced the college football playoff, it didn't make sense to me even then, because I felt like, why introduce like you said, human error? It was something about that computer system that they felt like they didn't trust. And my thing is, like, I get it, but at the same time, you have to have people on the back end that's updating that model, because 10 years ago, whatever was considered strength of schedule, etc., even like the strength of the different conferences, that may look different now. And so I would rather us, I would rather see them put the resources behind keeping that system updated. I mean, it's still there. It just makes me wonder, what about that system they didn't trust enough to where they felt like they had to introduce a raggedy playoff committee? They could have just expanded the BCS to 4 teams, to 8 teams, to 12 teams, problem solved. And so I do like that you mentioned that. Those in the chat, what are your thoughts on that? Do y'all feel like maybe it should have continue to be BCS but just expanded? What do you think about that? JB, I'm going to ask you the same thing, and then I want to move over to something else. But Greg Byrne, our athletic director, how do you feel about his statement? Like, do you really believe that going forward, even considering next year, should we really look into expanding to other opportunities out when it comes to those Power 4 non-conference games?
Well, I understand what Greg Byrne was saying, and Greg Byrne's a good dude. I understand what he was saying. They actually just dropped the schedule just a few minutes ago. We going to Florida State. So these schedules are already made out years in advance.
Yeah.
The conferences, they already made out. We got Ohio State coming up in a couple years, home and home. We got Florida State. We going to Tallahassee, first game of the season, next season. And then they come to us the season after. But besides that, we got UL Monroe, Wisconsin, and Eastern Illinois. So it's really not that tough of a non-conference schedule. Now, Greg Byrne, I like I say, I love me some Greg Byrne, but his argument was a little flawed because we did lose 3 conference games. We lost 3 we didn't lose all the conference games.
Yeah, it wasn't non-conference.
Yeah, so we lost 3 conference games. And anytime you lose 3 conference games, that's going to put you behind those other teams who did not lose 3 conference games.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, same boat. We both, Bama and Ole Miss, were in good spots until we lost in Norman, Oklahoma, and they lost that game to Florida.
In Florida, yeah.
And that took us out of the conversation. So you really can't be mad at the committee for doing what they did. Of course, you have to appease the other conferences. It's not the Big Ten and the SEC, which we may get to that down the line. We may get to that down the line, but right now you have to appease the ACC and the Big 12 and the independent Notre Dame and the little guys, Boise State. So, I mean, that's what they wanted. And to piggyback on the BCS thing, when they decided to change it,
when we played LSU twice.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That was it. Every single time it has something to do with something that Alabama does. We played LSU twice, and we turned them up. They didn't even pass the 50-yard line in that national championship. Like, that was literally, I think, by far the best national championship in the last 15 to 20 years. We weren't playing no game. Y'all play if y'all want to. No. That's the Alabama that we need to get back to.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's what started it. That started all the conversation because they was like, hold on, we just saw this game. Bama lost to these guys. They playing them again?
Now, but JB, let's ask them this. Show us the numbers. Show us how much money they made off of that national championship game. That's number 1 as far as the views, the ratings. But then for 2, I would almost say that, to me, that's an issue where you're saying that this computer system doesn't work enough to where you now have to introduce people where it's going to be biased there, and you're pulling random people from these different schools. That someone that was an athletic director at Duke, someone think about that. Think about what that's really saying. To me, now I question the integrity of the system overall, because you couldn't trust this computer system that's been working all these years to where now you have to have this so-called committee so that they can put their opinions where it's going to be subjective. That's completely stupid, and nobody questioned it and nobody did anything about it. No, we need to do something about this. I believe we need to do something about it, but I want to ask something else though. So our former running back, Damian Harris, he put out some comments regarding Jalen Milroe, because there's been a lot of questions regarding, if he's coming back, if he's going to transfer, if he's going to the NFL. And it was really interesting what he said. And I think it was good that he, because even AJ McCarron spoke out recently as well. But I'm going to read what Damian said verbatim. I don't want to add to what he's saying, but this is what he said. He said, I don't think that Jalen Milroe should go to the NFL draft because I don't think that he's ready. I think that he should hit the transfer portal, go somewhere, get a fresh start, because I don't think this marriage between him and Kalen DeBoer, it doesn't look like it's working. Not for either person, not saying it's either party's fault. It's just sometimes relationships don't work. So, I mean, he said the quiet part out loud, I think. And I think coming from a former player as someone who did really well at Alabama, it has some weight to it. So what are your thoughts really quickly, JB, on what he said? Like, do you kind of share that same sentiment that maybe Milrose should go to another school, kind of like what Jalen Hurts did in a sense, or do you feel like he should just go ahead and go to the draft or even come back to Alabama?
I don't want to agree with Damian Harris because he be talking crazy. Y'all know how he was talking early in the season about Malachi. But, I mean, he has a point. But at the end of the day, I think Jalen's going to the NFL draft. It's a lot of guys that get drafted that's not ready to play. Hell, Bryce went number 1, and he wasn't ready to go out there on a trash team. So you have to look at the situation. These guys get drafted on potential. So if the team falls in love with the quarterback, especially at the quarterback position, the team falls in love with you, they're going to draft you. They're going to mold you. Sometimes they throw you into the fire. But the best situation is to go sit behind a veteran quarterback for maybe 1, 2, maybe even 3 years. Learn the game. Get better at all aspects of the game. Then you go out there and take over. We've seen a lot of guys do it. We look at Jordan Love right now. We saw Aaron Rodgers sit behind Brett Favre. And you keep seeing that. But also guys get thrown into the fire. And then they sit down and then they come back out and get better. But I think Jalen Milroe going to the draft. I don't think he's going to transfer to Auburn or Oregon or whatever.
I know Auburn didn't. Who said that? Somebody said that in the chat.
It wasn't Chris Williams, but I saw somebody say that on social media. He's going to transfer to Auburn. He's not.
Y'all got to be crazy. Come on now.
But you got a starting job locked up at Alabama, but you're going to transfer to Auburn. What? For what? To develop?
What? Develop what?
We know Auburn ain't developing nothing. But at the same time,
I can see if he took the Jalen Hurts route, went with Lincoln Riley for a year or so.
Yeah.
No way, Auburn, no.
Yo, they be so delusional. What they even talking about? Chris, hush. Sir, sit back and hush. We just beat y'all 28-14, sir.
Yeah.
And y'all got beat up on the sideline.
I see 334 girl in the chat. She said she's surprised that he's still high on people's board. But he's definitely like
go get that money, man.
Yeah, go get the money. So he's top 3, like on the big board. Yeah. They draft on potential. Anthony Richardson, AR-15, that was with Florida. He got drafted number 4, I believe, number 5 in that same draft with Bryce Young.
He can go and perform at a combine. Listen, he has all the tools.
Yes.
But for some reason, it's not working in Kalen DeBoer's system. You know what I'm saying? So, he has the tools. He has the measurement. So, there's a guy, look, we got Brock Purdy. I know San Francisco do better than Brock Purdy, So,
yeah.
I
know a great situation for him. Pittsburgh Steelers. Go sit go sit with Mike Tomlin and Russell Wilson, man.
Well, they had that already with Justin Fields, so they wouldn't, they wouldn't take another. Because I'm a Steeler. I tell you now. No, there's no way we're gonna miss another quarterback at the moment. No.
Okay. All right. I like what you said there, JB. So Dan, I'll ask you the same question. How do you feel about what Damian Harris said and what Justin mentioned in the background regarding Jalen Milroe? Not necessarily about going to the draft, but possible transfer locations.
Yeah. Listen, Jalen has to do what's best for Jalen. Let me say this. I love Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe has been a great ambassador for the University of Alabama. He's represented the school well. He's been a good leader. But that being said, I think it's time for both parties to move in different directions. I let him date my daughter. He's just that fine young man. I think that's how highly I think of him. But I think now it's time for, Jalen Milroe and Alabama to go in different directions.
Yeah, I agree. He should go ahead and go to the NFL. I mean, honestly, we're going to get into transfer portal, but with Dylan Lonergan hitting the portal, that sucked. That was, horrible. And then the fact that we already have 3-4 receivers. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I did see a super chat. So I do want to shout out, who is that? Let me see. Who do we have the super chat from? All right. Shout out to Del B. We need to go back to playing Alabama football, period. I think Milroe needs to go, period. I agree, period. Exclamation point. No question mark. Like, no, it's just like, look.
Period. He wrote
I
out
know.
He wrote out the word period. You know he means business.
Hey, that's like, look, he ain't playing no games. He had to put some money behind it. He's like, nah, like we not doing that. No, I agree. I mean, it's like one of those situations where when you know, like when it's time to go, it's just, and he honestly, I hope that Milroe feels that way too. Like maybe he kind of feels like, you know what, I want to take my skill set to another level. I know that I need to learn more, and I'm not getting that here. To be honest, had we gotten Ryan Grubb, that I do think that would have made a difference. I think putting Sheridan in that OC position, of course, the timing of it, I think that's why that happened. But yeah, I mean, all this woulda, coulda, shoulda, what it's gonna do now. But really quickly, I want to, because we just mentioned the portal and I mentioned Dylan Lonergan, and I kind of want to get into, and I want to ask this question to the chat as well. You know, these are Auburn fans that's in there. I guess y'all can answer it. Yeah, not like y'all can really speak to anything, but you know, I'm gonna pose the question to y'all too. Who do y'all feel like have been our biggest losses in the transfer portal so far? So we know that the portal opened this Monday, and it opens for about like 20 days. So I think for another couple of weeks. And so far, the guys that we've had, Jaheim Otis, that was, you know, I think right after we lost to Vanderbilt. So he's been in the portal for some time, but also Jaleel Hurley, Keanu Coote, you have receivers galore, Caleb Odom, Kobe Prentice, Kendrick Law, Hunter Osborne, one of our defensive linemen, O-lineman Mouse McVay. As of today, quarterback Dylan Lonergan, which sucks because to me, he would have been awesome at Alabama. Then we also had tight end Danny Lewis Jr., which I was really hoping we would have seen more of him this year. And then we had offensive lineman Naquil Betron, something like that. Yeah. So I want to get y'all's takes on this really quickly. Now, I would say who I think are the biggest portal losses. For one, I would say Caleb Odom. I was really excited about him to be able to land someone like him out of the state of Georgia. In and of itself says a lot, but the fact that he stayed committed even after Coach Saban retired, to me, that said something without him actually saying something, you know? And so I was excited to see him get out there, and it just really, it really irked me that we did not utilize him more. I mean, it was times he would get on the field, but Milroe wasn't throwing to him. And I'm like, how do you not see this big 6'5" guy? He was open at times. Now he did drop he's an easy target. And to be fair, he did drop a couple passes. So did Kobe Prentice, you know, Kendrick Law. Ryan Williams, exactly. Kendrick Law, you know, he was really good at blocking, but it really makes me feel some type of way specifically for those three, and then also Dylan Lonergan. So I want to get y'all's takes on this. Dan, really quickly, what are your thoughts as far as who do you believe the biggest portal loss or losses are for Alabama, and would you actually call it a loss?
I would say without a doubt Kendrick Law, but I want to say this. You know, y'all are sleeping on NyQuil.
No. Look. Hey, I forgot how to spell his name. So when I looked him up, I was typing it with the Y, and it kept coming up with some type of lawsuit between NyQuil, and I was like, what? I'm like, surely I was spelling it wrong. So, but it's an A in there. So I was getting it wrong. But I'm like, NyQuil. What?
But with that said, when it came up, he was in the portal. I was like, oh man, I forgot that he was on the roster.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, we struggle with Elijah Pritchett and Wilkin Foreman. They look terrible at times. So for him to not even be considered, you know, that says, tell us all we need to know. So
yeah,
it's just numbers off. Miles McVay, same thing. You know, he's not a type of lineman for you know this system. You know, he's not a tackle. He's too big for guard, you know. So if you got passed up, you got Geno Vandermark that passed him up, you know, Rock Montgomery so he was caught in the numbers game, so you can't blame him. But without a doubt, you know, potential wise and everything, without a doubt, I think it was Kendrick Law. You know, you're losing your best blocker on the perimeter. Athlete. You know, we couldn't scheme him into the games, you know, other than little poor jet sweeps attempt, but nobody could block it for him, you know. So
yeah.
So I think without a doubt, Kendrick Law is our biggest loss. But, you know, anytime you lose an athlete like Caleb Odom, because you don't give him enough targets. You know, I think that's the reason. You know,
and it's no excuse for that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get it. Maybe it's something in practice. Maybe they just didn't have that chemistry. But what I did see, it looked to me like he had pretty good chemistry with Ty Simpson, and I really wish that we could have seen them out there together more. JB, what are your thoughts? I mean, who do you feel like the biggest loss has been so far for us in the portal?
I mean, they ain't hit it right on the head. I mean, those wide receivers, Caleb Odom, like you mentioned, because of the upside. We didn't get to see much of Caleb Odom. We didn't get to see him at all. I mean, but that size, you can't teach that size. And he had to be talented for us to be so high on him. But they moved him from tight end to wide receiver. So we thought that was, a notion that we were going to see a lot of him, but we didn't see it. Maybe we should have kept him at tight end. Who knows?
But JB, whose idea was that? Wasn't that Jamarcus Shepard?
I think so.
I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah. And then they say, because this was right before the season started, and then they essentially say that they had plans to kind of work him in. That was one of the reasons why they wanted to move him to wide receiver. So it's like, what was the point? I mean,
yeah. So I don't blame him from hitting the portal. Somebody lied. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you move my position and then you don't use me, I'll be mad too.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got some more guys coming in. I was really high on Kobe Prentice. I was really high on him coming back. Thought he would have a big season. He can run routes really well.
Yep.
He dropped a lot of passes this year. He wasn't on the same page with Miro. So, I mean, I kind of saw that coming. And Kendrick Law just didn't get the ball enough. He averaged 10 yards every time he got the ball. He averaged the first down.
Exactly.
So I don't understand why he didn't get the ball but 2 times a game, if that. But he was the best blocker. He was the best blocker. All those runs that went outside, bouncing outside, Kendrick Law was blocking his man all the way through. Like
he could block it for them, but they couldn't block it for him.
No, they couldn't. Thank you. So I mean, that's gonna hurt the other guys. I mean, I don't know. I kind of figured we was gonna lose Lonergan though. Quarterback. I feel like one of the quarterbacks was gonna leave. But we got Keelan Russell coming in, Ty Simpson, Austin Mack. It's going to be a hell of a quarterback competition in spring.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Well, we have another super chat that we want to get to, and thank y'all for the super chats. And let's see, what do we have? All right, shout out to Mr. Yelder. I disagree with Damian Harris. Saban stuck by and started him when he wasn't the best back in his room with Najee and Josh Jacobs.
Ooh, yes.
Well.
Shots fired. I love it.
I know. That's just one of them. You just sit up there. You just be quiet.
Let me see my
That's how Mr. Yelder, he let them rounds off.
I know. Hey, he took the safety off.
Yeah.
Hollow points.
Love that one.
Yeah. He playing. Okay. All right. Well.
Speak the truth.
Yeah, well, hey, and just for those that are in the chat, we always say this, but I'm gonna keep saying it. Be sure, because when we post these questions, when I'm asking JB and Dan their thoughts on different things, I want y'all to answer it as well, because we do like to kind of see if y'all are in agreement, or maybe if y'all have other suggestions, things like that. And I did mention at the start of the show that we do have our Q&A coming up soon, so we'll be able to get to that later. Any questions that you may have, so go ahead and drop them if you haven't already. Now, really quickly, because we just talked about guys that we lost in the portal. But I want to mention a few names, because we actually did recently pick up another commitment, and then we have a few visits, I believe, starting tomorrow that are worth mentioning, along with other guys. So I'm gonna mention some names, and I want to get y'all's takes on these guys. So we did get a commitment from a punter. So y'all know that James Burnap, he's a senior. I believe he'll be leaving this year. So we did get a punter from the Colorado School of Mines, Blake Dowd, and I had to shout him out. He's studying mechanical engineering. That's what I studied. And so the fact that he's a football player and he's studying it, I know it's not easy. So shout out to him for that. Apparently that school is one of the top ones in the nation for that too. So now he has, I believe, 13 50 or more yard punts. He's been like, and he actually went viral for recently for punting the ball like 80 yards. I think they were playing some Texas A&M school, West Texas A&M, and he got it down to the 1 yard line. So he's been going viral for different things. He's been named for a few different awards, especially last year. Last year he went off. So I wanted to shout him out, because I think that, us getting him, that's going to be good as far as the transition with James Burnap leaving. But it was a few guys that I wanted to mention who are visiting Alabama actually, and we need need to talk about them. So there's a 5-star quarterback, Jared Curtis. He's actually from the class of 2026. He's a pro-style quarterback out of Tennessee. He's already visited Alabama twice, and he actually committed to Georgia earlier this year in the spring, but then he just decommitted from them in October of this year. So he's actually going to be visiting Alabama again this week. He's been trending towards Ohio State, but the reason why I wanted to mention him is because Ohio State has a 5-star pro-style quarterback coming in next year, the class of 2025, Tavian St. Clair. And so I'm just curious, like, how that may play out if Curtis does decide to go there. I'm just thinking that's going to be very interesting. So we can keep that door open, especially with Lonergan leaving and that competition that's going to be there. Who knows? But then a couple other guys, and I want to get y'all's takes. A few other guys that are going to visit Alabama this week. We have wide receiver Kevin Concepcion out of North Carolina State. He's a sophomore. He's going to be visiting Alabama this week. And the reason why it's worth mentioning him is because he already has a relationship in the room with Jatavius Sanders. So he's actually our director of recruiting. And Jatavius Sanders, he was actually the director of scouting at NC State a couple years ago. So they already know each other. That relationship is there. He's had about 6 touchdowns this season. He's been doing pretty well. He was actually named for the Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year award last year. So, he's doing his thing. And I think with the amount of receivers that we've had to already hit the portal, it may be helpful. I know we got different guys coming in, but he already has some experience on the field. So that could be a big win for Alabama. 2 other guys that are visiting this week that I wanted to mention is a tight end from Arkansas, Luke Hass. And so he's been doing pretty well. He has, I believe, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns this season, had a big game against Mississippi State on the road this year. And he's on a few watch lists as well for some awards. He was actually listed as one of the top 10 tight ends in the nation going into college. So he would be going into his junior year next year. But then one other guy, edge rusher Kelby Collins from Florida. He's a sophomore. He's from the state of Alabama, though, and I don't know how we missed him, but he'll be visiting Alabama this week as well. Had a good season his freshman year. Didn't really play much, though, due to, I believe, maybe some depth at that position. But before I mention anyone else, because these are guys specifically who are visiting this week, I believe starting tomorrow. Before I mention anyone else, I want to get y'all's takes on these guys in particular. How do y'all feel? I'm going to start with you, Dan, on this one. How do you feel? For one, I mentioned this 5-star pro-style quarterback, Jared Curtis. He's from Tennessee. He just decommitted from Georgia. He's visiting Alabama. He's visiting Alabama this week. What are your thoughts on him and then the other 3 guys that I mentioned?
Well, it's a great sign, to get them on campus for multiple visits. So you want to get your quarterback early. You want to build your recruiting class around the quarterback. So for us to get them on, I think this will be his 3rd visit from Georgia. So that is huge. I like our chance. I know you mentioned Ohio State signed a 5-star quarterback, but guess who else did?
Alabama.
He's not a guy that's gonna shock in competition. I think he's a guy that Coach DeBoer and staff, they have circled and pinpointed. They don't put out a lot of quarterback offers. So they get their 4 or 5 offers, then they circle in, they bring them in, look at them, watch them throw, evaluate them, and then they decide whether or not they're going to push. And this is one they're definitely going to push for. Now, as far as the receiver, Kevin Casey Concepcion, big to get him on campus. Like you say, he had a prior relationship with Jatavius Sanders. Good news, a note on that, he was scheduled to visit Texas A&M, but he was a no-show at Texas A&M. And Texas A&M side seem to be concerned that, they're going to try to get him the visit after the Bama visit, but, we'll see how that goes, if he shows up. But, Bama, I think we'll push hard enough. I think we can close the deal on that. Kelby Collins, he's a guy that, we lost in-state the same year, we lost Peter Bridge. We lost the in-state guys, defensive linemen. So Alabama came in second, but he took the NIL money, went to Florida. Things didn't work out. They changed position, bulked him up a little bit, put him on the inside. So things didn't work out there. So now he's back in the portal, and Alabama is sitting in the prime position, for him. And Luke Hobbs, same thing. Alabama finished second for him coming out of Bixby, Oklahoma. He was one of the top tight ends. He was like Alabama's one of the top tight end targets overall, and Alabama really pushed hard for him. Unfortunately, they were unable to close the deal with him, and he eventually chose Arkansas. So it was a little closer to home, but now he's in the portal and he's visiting. We'll see how his relationship is with this staff here, and we'll go from there. But Alabama is going. They're doing their due diligence in the portal, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's one thing that, we kind of want to remind fans is like, although we have guys from Alabama hitting the portal, we can hit that portal too. And we're going to get who we need, and I believe we're going to get the guys that Coach DeBoer want to have. And Dan, when you were mentioning KC, Kevin Concepcion, when you mentioned how he didn't show up for that visit at Texas A&M, I'm like, who else did that? The one and only Ryan Williams. He ain't show up to no raggedy Auburn because there was no point in doing that. So, this just lets y'all know that like those other schools that y'all like to talk about, they have no reason to go there. Like you come to Alabama, you sign with Alabama, and you just stay. I mean, if you want to leave, go ahead and leave. But we'll get into that later. I'm gonna mention something else later, and then we'll get into that. But JB, what are your thoughts? So I mentioned the pro style quarterback, Jared Curtis. Of course, it will be a lot of competition at that position going into next year. But Coach DeBoer, it'll give him an opportunity to get that style of quarterback that he can develop, and that already comes in to some degree with that football IQ. So what are your thoughts on those four guys that I mentioned? I mentioned Luke out of Arkansas, Kelby from Florida. You have the pro style quarterback, but he's class of 2026, Jared Curtis. So I'm just curious, what are your thoughts so far on those guys?
Well, just like Dan mentioned, you got to get the quarterback early. You know what I'm saying? You got to get the jump. So the boy, class 2025, we got a lot of early signees last week. So now you have to still focus on 26. So getting these guys committed and keeping them committed for a whole nother year until signing day rolls back around is gonna, especially in this NIL era, is definitely difficult to keep these guys locked in for a year or more. So it's good to have that. This is third visit, like y'all mentioned. So we can get him, at least get him verbally committed, and just keep an eye on him, trying to keep him happy. And we'll have him in the mix for 2026. Concepcion, I like him. I watched him play. I think he kind of reminds me a little bit of Jalen Waddle, sort of. He's not a big kid. It's kind of small, but he can move after the catch, run after the catch, get those yards. I think we need a guy like that in this system, especially if we're going to open up this offense more with whoever the quarterback may be next year. So I think he'll be a perfect fit. And then we just lost 3 wide receivers. So it's always good to you got to get 1 or 2 guys out the portal to go with the guys who stayed and the young guys coming in. You got to have a good mix, but we can't live in the portal. We can't get 25 guys out the portal like Coach Prime. And you saw Ole Miss, he was Lane was the portal king last year. You see where they got him in the same boat with us, 3 losses. But that's another story. We have to just get the guys that fit. Get the guys that fit what we're trying to do. And I think Concepcion will be good. That tight end, Luke Haas, man, we need a tight end. And he's big. I bet you he's a good blocker. I bet you. Coming from Oklahoma, Bixby, Oklahoma, that sounds like that's a road town.
He can block.
Yes, I bet you he can block.
But on top of that, you have Danny Lewis Jr. that hit the portal, and then you have CJ Dupree and Robbie Oots. They most likely are going to the draft. Yes. So who else do you have? We have Jay Lindsey that's there. He came in this year. We have Caleb Edwards coming in next year, and then we have Marshall Pritchett coming in next year. But I think Luke will be a great addition, especially with that experience that he has and his size, like you said.
Definitely need that. And then what you say, he had like 300 some yards and 4 touchdowns. That's good for a tight end. You don't get the ball a lot as a tight end. We use you to block. But if you can get open and red zone target, or we need a first down safety valve, we need that. So we need to get him locked in. We actually need all these guys locked in. Yeah. Now the defensive guy from Florida, I looked at his stats. He didn't do anything last year. Yeah. But the year before he was good. His freshman year. Yeah. So maybe coming into a new system, new environment, maybe, and he probably wants to come to Bama, So let's see. Let's bring him in and get him through spring camp and see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. I look.
Oh, he go
And
crazy.
Kelby is from Alabama too, so that may make a difference. When they sign with Arkansas, they get a Costco card and 5 free Instacart deliveries. Well, that's better than signing with somebody
It's,
raggedy
it's
like Auburn. Because what they
Walmart.
gonna get?
It's a
They gonna
Walmart.
get a Family Dollar gift card? Like, I can
Now
like
they get that bucket membership. They get that buckets.
I know. I mean, there's a reason why these guys cancel their visits to Auburn before they even get there. Like they're probably like, okay, let me just like be professional. Let me still keep the visit. You know what? No, I'm not even gonna waste my time. Like Ryan, we have said absolutely not. Like what, sir? Y'all look. Anywho, I want to name a few other guys though that I believe that, and I don't see them listed as a having a visit scheduled, but I do believe that Alabama needs to look into them because we talked about the 3 receivers, what if you want to count Danny Lewis, and of course 4 that have entered the portal from Alabama. But there is another guy that I wanted to mention. He's from Georgia Tech, Eric Singleton Jr. He's a sophomore, and he was the leading receiver for Georgia Tech this year. You know that they had a really good season for the most part, considering their previous seasons. He had 800 receiving yards himself, 3 touchdowns this year, had almost 100 yards against Georgia, and he had over 100 yards in their game against NC State. That's a guy that I think if you're looking at adding depth to that receiver position, he's one of the guys that you want. But there's another one from USC that entered the portal, Kyron Hudson. He's a junior. He's from the state of California, but he had the 3rd highest receiving yards for the season for USC, had almost 100 yards in their win against LSU. I think he's another good guy, big guy, hard to bring him down. If you want to add some depth, he's another guy. But then there's a tight end that we all should be familiar with that plays at Oklahoma, but he's from Dothan, Alabama, Bauer Sharp. And he actually leads Oklahoma in receiving yards. He had over 300 receiving yards this season, over 50 in their game against Ole Miss. He's going to be visiting Auburn, but, he ain't going to see too much down there. So, I do that. I believe that's another guy that we want to look into from a receiving perspective. I want to mention 2 other guys from an offensive perspective, and then I'll get into defense after I get y'all's takes on the offensive guys. There were 2 because we talked about the O-linemen that have entered the portal. Of course, Miles McVay and I believe NyQuil. But you have he's a tackle actually. Gunnar Hassan. He's from Vanderbilt. He's a senior, but he has one more year of eligibility. 6'5", 330 pounds. He was actually named the Outland Trophy National Player of the Week after their win against us this year. He was listed to have the best overall performance and pass block grades in that particular game. He didn't allow any sacks or hits on their QB. So that's one guy that's in the portal that we should be considering, especially with his experience. I know we got some young guys coming in, young guys that are there now, but he should definitely be considered. And then we also have another one that hit the portal, offensive lineman Payne Kirkland. He's from Colorado. He's a freshman though, but he plays both tackle and guard. And this summer he was ranked as in the top 25 offensive tackles in the nation. So I'm going to stop right there. Another 6. I think he's 6'6", but I'm going to stop right there just talking about the offensive guys, and then we'll talk about defensive. I'll start with you, JV. The guys that I named, I know I named a lot, but I wanted to focus on offense first, and then I want to get to defense. But I mentioned some of the tight ends and the wide receivers. You have Kyron Hudson out of USC. You have Eric Singleton Jr. out of Georgia Tech. Both had good seasons. Eric Singleton Jr., we need to get this guy. But then even the O-linemen that I mentioned, are any of those guys, do any of them stand out to you? Or do you believe that any of them could potentially fit into what Kalen DeBoer is trying to build at Alabama?
I like Singleton. I really like him. He stood out in that Georgia game, like you mentioned. The best receiver from Georgia Tech. I think he probably is going to be looking for a payday and a bigger opportunity. So, and I think he's going on a visit at Auburn. I believe I saw yes, I saw a couple other teams on the list as well, but I don't know. He may be a long shot. The tight end Sharp, you say, is he from Dothan? You say
he's from Dothan, yeah.
He need to come on. I mean,
come on home.
Yeah, we need tight end depth. We need depth and experience at the tight end position. Yeah. I think he will be great. The receiver Hudson from USC, I like him too. I like him, big kid, man. I mean, if we have to snag a couple of receivers, I think we have to, because you just lost 3. Who knows who else may leave? The portal's still open. We got a couple guys coming in, freshmen, true freshmen. But I mean, we got Jaden Hale coming back off the injury. Hopefully, you know, Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard stays.
And you got Cole Adams too, right?
Yeah, Cole Adams from the
Yeah.
injury. Yeah. So we're good, but depth is going to be key. So you still need, you know, because you don't know who's going to hit the portal. So you need to just try to get a couple guys because the portal's going to open back up after spring ball. And we know what happens. When guys get in that spring count, A-Day comes around, the portal opens back up. You might have more exodus. So it's always good to get some guys in to replace some guys who move.
Yep, I agree. And like you said, we have those freshman receivers coming in, and that's good, but it does make a difference when you have those guys that have already been out there. They already kind of, you know, they're familiar with the style of play in the SEC, et cetera, or even not SEC, but, you know, maybe just KJ Jefferson, who left Arkansas to go to UCF, is going back to Arkansas. Okay. Yeah, that's crazy. Dan, what are your thoughts? I know I mentioned quite a few names, but I know that you're our lead recruiting analyst for the Bama Center Network, so I know that none of them are new to you. But as far as receivers, I mean, you look at the 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end that's leaving Alabama. Do you feel like Kyron Hudson, Eric Singleton Jr., do you feel like the same with what JB said, that maybe Eric is trying to look kind of like a payday, or he wants to be like that go-to guy, kind of how Ryan Williams has been?
I don't know about Eric Singleton. He's very similar to Casey Concepcion, you know, so, you know, very similar skill set and everything. Now, Kyron Hudson, you know, hey, that's a big target. So I don't know. Can he block? You know,
right.
He's a guy that I think Alabama should pursue, you know. But the one I'm interested in is the tackle from Vanderbilt. What's his name? Gunnar Hansen.
Gunnar Hansen, yeah.
Hey.
That's going to be a huge win.
Because that'll be the ultimate get back for us with Vanderbilt, because they took Keanu Coop. You know, they take one of our backups and we take one of their starters. So that'll be a nice little get back at Vanderbilt. Because they're talking smack by, you know, getting one of our backup linebackers, you know, that underperformed this year. So, you know, they felt like there was some type of gut punch to us. But, you know, hey, you know, they was saying all kind of stuff. If you can't beat them, join them. So, you know, I think.
Well, how does it feel to be the backup? I mean, he didn't want to go to y'all. If he wanted to be at Vanderbilt, he would have went to Vanderbilt in the first place. Like, come on, sit down somewhere, Vandy. Like, pipe down a little bit.
Yeah.
But Peyton Kirkland, I don't think, you know, he's same type Miles McVay. He's a big, you know, let's say cement-footed tackle. I don't think he's somebody we should pursue and would fit in this system. So, but we'll see. You know, we got this one, then we're gonna have a post-spring one. So you don't want to fill your roster up with this one. You want to wait post-spring. We're gonna have guys leave again. They're gonna know where they're at in the spring game. You know, we're gonna have some guys leave again. Portal's gonna open up again. Then you want to go from there. So, you know, right now you're playing a numbers game right now. Then after the spring, you're going to use the transfer portal to actually set your roster.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I'm glad that y'all mentioned the spring portal. Yeah, and then even as far as like the defensive guys, it was just a few that I noticed, and I don't want to take up too much time on them, but a couple linebackers. One out of Arizona, he's a junior, had a huge season. He did really good 2023. Jacob Manu, he's been pretty good. So like I said, 2023 was huge for him. So that's one guy in terms of that linebacker position. Darion Gillette out of Texas, he was a freshman. He did have an offer from Alabama last year. He was actually ranked the number 7 linebacker in the nation in 2023. So that's another guy. And then there's a defensive end from UCF. He's a junior, but he was previously at Miami, Nigel Kelly. And he had a good season this year, over 50 total tackles, 20 solo tackles. He did pretty good, 3 forced fumbles. So did really good in their game against BYU. So those are a few other names. But really quickly, for those in the chat, I want to get y'all's takes on this, because honestly, we could sit here all day long and talk about different guys that Alabama should get, especially offensively, because I think that offensive coordinator position, that's going to be key as far as who we get and who we can retain. And so I want y'all to throw out some names in the chat as far as like offensive coordinator options. I mean, I have a feeling that we're going to see some changes with Nick Sheridan, because he's a tight end coach. I mean, I almost feel like maybe he was just kind of thrown into that role. There was a few names that I listed. It could be, kind of a long shot, but I still want us to go after Ryan Grubb. It may be hard. That's cool. But I think that he would be key to developing and especially like these quarterbacks that we're going to have next year. Joe Brady was another guy that I was looking at. He's in the NFL as well. But I mean, I don't know. Joe Brady possibly. And then I thought of Mike Denbrock, the guy from Notre Dame, offensive coordinator. I think that's another one that we could potentially look at. I just feel like someone that has that offensive coordinator experience. They've played some SEC, schools in the past, or they may have experience in SEC. So we should see Mike Shula just got hired as the OC for South Carolina. Interesting.
Yep.
So really quickly, do y'all have any thoughts on that as far as what I mentioned with the offensive coordinator? Open.
Maybe an analyst comes in. I don't want to fire Nick Sheridan right now because, like I mentioned this on Sunday. Maybe he was locked in with Keelan Russell. We don't want to let maybe he had a hand in bringing in Keelan Russell. So we don't want to fire him right now. And then Keelan Russell was like, "Hey, y'all fired my coach."
Yeah.
So
I tell you what, the first time he run 3 straight quarterback keep with Keelan Russell, we're gonna fire him.
Right. They ain't waste no time. They won't waste any time. Dan, did you have any thoughts on that as far as OC possibly, or do you think we should just hold on to Sheridan?
I don't know. Miro's gonna play in this game, so I would like to see how he would look with a different quarterback. If that makes sense. But, we need Miro to play against Michigan because we're playing against Michigan. This is a get back game. So
no, it ain't. There ain't nobody. What you mean?
Yeah, so
I don't worry about it.
I don't know. Let's give him one more season to prove it. But yeah,
Okay.
gloves off after game 5. We're gonna know what we have in Nick Sheridan.
So we need to have somebody on standby.
Yeah, right. have somebody on speed dial. All right, you heard that, DeBoer.
We had Sark when Lane started tripping.
I know.
Yeah. Get ready, loosen up.
I know. All right. Well, really quickly, we do have to shout out our other sponsor, WhitwellSports.com. We always tell you that your game day is not the same without a title towel, even though post game is kind of over for Alabama. We still got the title towel. So shout out to WhitwellSports.com. Be sure to use promo code STANDARD to receive an exclusive discount. Now, I want to pivot a little bit. Our plan was to spend some time to talk about, our matchup with Michigan. Honestly, it's going to be a waste of time because I hate to say it like that, but I mean, who wants to play them? Like, first of all, playoff committee, because they're trying to be funny, trying to match us up with them in the first place. Because how you gonna match us up with an unranked raggedy Michigan? Like, come on now. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's disrespectful. Y'all could have put us with another team, but that whatever. And I mean, and then people are calling it a revenge game. How is that a revenge game? Most of their guys that they had last year are gone, including their head coach. But then you have the key player on the team, Connor Stallions, the guy that's cheated for him. He ain't there anymore. I mean, it's just like, to me, it's not a
get back. I don't care.
I mean, but even then, I would rather see the senior get back with the guys who were like, I don't know. It's not, you're talking about a 12 p.m. game on a Tuesday. Like, don't waste our
time. Fans playing flag football. I want to get back.
I mean, honestly, I would rather see us just blow them completely out. If we're gonna play them again, let's just blow them out because based on the records, we're 3-3 with Michigan. As far as this will be the 7th matchup with them. But I mean, it's just the committee trying to be funny. Like, I just hope that we just blow them completely out. And we just walk off the field and just say, you know what, forget y'all. Because that SMU little game that they got, I think who they play, Penn State. Is it Penn State that they have in the first round?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to see the ratings on that. I know it's not all about that, but for them, it is like that. I mean, that's a huge part of it. So do y'all have any thoughts or whatever about this little raggedy matchup with Michigan? I mean, how y'all feel? Dan, I'll start with you because you leaned all in. You got Dan, you got
I want this get back. I want this get back. Miro, I want you to go out with a bang, man. I want you to leave it all on the field. This game here, you know what I'm saying? This is your chance here to to cap off your legacy at Bama.
Yeah.
You get us to get back with Michigan. We may forget the Oklahoma law. When you go out there, you play the game of your life. You bring some type of closure to this season. We ask you to do that for us. Other than that, anything less, we'll help you pack.
I know, right? We'll help you pack, but Milrow, if you're gonna be playing in this game, just go ahead and blow them out. Like just tear them apart. Like make them like wish that they never traveled to Tampa for that game. Like it's 12 p.m. Don't nobody. I mean, come on. It's just like we need to make the committee look and feel as stupid as they are. Like I hate to say it like that, but it just is what it is because they want to add that layer of bias where they don't have to answer to anyone. Everything is subjective. They're not supposed to have bias, but that's exactly what it is. Otherwise, you don't get away from a computer-based model. Like it doesn't make sense. They didn't want to see Alabama in anyway, but we kind of shot ourselves in the foot, to be honest, when it came to the loss against Oklahoma. So we just need to just show the committee like, look, if we would have been in there, which we should have been over SMU, this is what would have happened. You know, it just is what it is. JB, what are your thoughts? How you feel about this little Ragney matchup? I mean, what you think?
I got to get myself hyped for it, man. You know, it's
That's
like,
how I feel.
Yeah. You didn't like Michigan. Come on, but I understand what Dan's saying. Get back, you know, and we 3-3 against Michigan. Got to break the tie. Now I don't know if Milrow's gonna play or not. I mean, I know Coach DuBois said in an interview that he thinks the guys are gonna play. He don't know 100%. They had to come out and said they're gonna play, but we got a lot of guys who are eligible for the NFL draft. They may not play, so I want to see who's gonna play first, right? And Michigan, I mean, anytime somebody playing Alabama, they're gonna try to give it their best. Michigan's gonna go out there and try to, you know, do what they did to Ohio State, but it's not gonna happen. I don't know. A lot of people want to see Ty Simpson. I think they want to see Ty Simpson play, and even if Ty plays, I think we still win. Milrow, if you still got that first round grade, which I looked on Pro Football Focus, he's the 3rd rated quarterback, so that's a first round grade.
Hey, let me say this, JB. Yeah, let me say this. What if Ty Simpson goes out there and lights it up?
Then they're gonna say we should have played Ty Simpson.
There you go, man. Man, look here. I'm gonna drive to Tuscaloosa. I'm gonna slap somebody.
Somebody. Hey, Dan. Look, Dan. Just line them all up. Line them up. Even the athletic director, just line them up.
Now, Dan, if Milrow goes out there and light up Michigan, then what the fan base gonna say? Why didn't you do that against Oklahoma?
No, they're gonna say thank you.
Thank you. Hey, they're gonna be like, "Thank you. See you later. God bless you."
We'll give them a bright young send off.
Oh, that is hilarious. That is hilarious. Nah, man. Like, honestly, I would rather see Alabama and Michigan collectively opt out than for Alabama to opt out and Michigan not. Because I think if we do it that way, we're going to almost kind of look like Florida State looked last year and how they got blown out by Georgia, almost like they were sitting up there crying and throwing a hissy fit. I would rather see us both pull that stunt and be like, you know what? Neither one of us want to. Michigan should be thankful that they're in a bowl game this year. I would say that. But I would rather see both of us like collectively opt out than just Alabama, to be honest.
Yeah.
You gonna say something, Dan?
No,
you lean in the camera, so that's how I know you got.
I just want to get back. I just leave it at that.
Man, I just don't feel like it's the same. Like I could see if Harbaugh was still, even if like
with Michigan.
I mean, I get it, but I just feel like with so many of those guys gone, I don't even think that this year that they have that many guys going to the draft, right? Not like last year.
I don't think so.
No, so I just feel like it's just it just means something different. To me, this game has more to do with Alabama feeling disrespected by the committee. Not necessarily that we're not in the playoffs, but who they've matched us up with. Because I'm like, I mean, even from a money perspective, putting us up against someone like Miami, that'll bring in a lot of money. People want to see that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what were y'all even thinking? Like, y'all trying to be funny? Like, what? No. Anyway, but what are y'all thoughts in the chat? I know I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's not even worth it. But let's pivot. I want to talk about another sport. Actually, two. So specifically basketball, but I wanted to shout out one of the girls on track. She definitely deserves it. I'll start with basketball. So we're actually 7-2 right now. We're ranked 7th in the nation, coming off a big win against North Carolina. At North Carolina, I believe we beat them by like 15 points or so. Mark Sears scored 20 points. We had two guys that had 15 points each, Aiden Holloway and LeBaron Philon. Shout out to Houston Millette. He had his season opener for himself where he did pretty well. He had 6 points, 3 rebounds, rebounds, 2 steals. So shout out to him, because when he was at Pepperdine, he was averaging about 14 points per game. So I think he's going to be a good guy that we can rely on to, make some moves. But I did want to mention one of the girls that we mentioned earlier this year, Doris Lemgole. She's on our track and field, and she's continuing to be mentioned. Like she's breaking all types of records. So I wanted to shout her out. She's from Kenya, and we mentioned her before about breaking another NCAA record. Well, she just broke another one. So essentially, they had the 5,000 meter for women, for the women's, and for her 2024-2025 debut, she beat the record. And I was just like, that's awesome. She said in an interview before that she doesn't typically pay attention to the numbers. She just knows I have to go out there and win, and that's exactly what she did. This is the 3rd time this year that she's been named the National Athlete of the Year. So shout out to her. Any thoughts that y'all have? JB, I'll start with you regarding us coming off of that win against North Carolina, and then it's in terms of basketball. But then we also have another home game this weekend against Creighton. So So any thoughts regarding basketball, and then Doris from our track team?
Now, Doris, I think they honored her at the Iron Bowl. I was in attendance, and they did honor her at the Iron Bowl, so that was a good thing. And shouts out to her. Tired of hoops, man. Big game Saturday. I will be there.
Okay.
We had a whole week off, so that game against North Carolina was last week. So it's a lot of time, a big layover time, probably with 10, 11 days.
It's usually not that long either for basketball.
No, it's not. So, I mean, I want to see how they come out. I hope a lot of people show up on Saturday night, and I hope the energy is in the building. I'll be able to tell. And if they come out on fire, they should win this game handily. But Creighton knocked off Kansas, who was number 1 at the time. They just knocked them off. Creighton's been pretty good. So, and they beat us last year. So this is a get back game. They beat us last year by 3 points. So, I think we need to come out there with that intensity, enthusiasm. Just let it fly. Let it fly, because they're gonna shoot the ball too. But the guys are playing pretty good. We're ranked number 7 now, and we got to handle business Saturday. Must win.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just laughing because just like I feel like audacity is at an all-time high this year for some reason. So you got a Florida State fan in here, Ed D, talking about they should have made Alabama play Miami. They should have made Alabama play Miami, but the committee protects these SEC teams.
They didn't take Florida State from playing them, did they?
I know. Y'all always got something to say. Just running y'all mouth for nothing.
Go sit at the little table now. Go sit back at the little table.
I know. Go sit at that kiddie table with your Lunchable and your Capri Sun, sir. Okay, Dan, what are your thoughts so far as how well we're performing in terms of basketball? Because of course we don't have our first conference game until January 4th against Oklahoma. But what are your thoughts on that? And then what about Doris Lemgole?
Yeah, congratulations, Doris. Very proud. You're doing Alabama very proud. As far as Tide hoops, man, to go into Chapel Hill and the Dean Dome and to have the fans leaving early, that says what the state of Alabama basketball is at right now.
Yeah.
We got 3 consecutive wins against North Carolina. So we are a blue blood.
Okay.
Say that.
Officially a blue blood.
Set the bar. You know what I'm saying? Now, he set the bar high. We had tempered expectations. Then Avery Johnson came along. We started getting a little better. We had a lot of disappointment. We were getting there, but we have a lot of disappointment. Yeah. Nate Oates has set the expectation through the roof.
Yeah.
Very good time. We're in the golden years of Alabama athletics right now. So, the basketball team has been playing very well, responding very well. Big game this weekend. I hope everyone, the fans, show up and show out. Let's get real live, because it is get back game. We owe Creighton.
You sure do.
And they had a big guy last year. You took advantage of us in the paint.
Now we got the big guys. So
let's get this win Saturday, but we get ready for SEC play. We lost Latrell Wrightsell for this year, which hurt. He was the best shooter on the team.
Yep.
And he was expecting a big year from him, but we took the red shirt off Houston Mallet. So hopefully we don't lose a beat. We got bigger on the perimeter. We can say that with Houston Mallet.
True.
So we got a big perimeter defender, which I thought was a weak spot for us last year. So Millette, he's able to help us out with that and be able to rebound from the guard position. Help out with the backside rebounds and everything. So, I'm very excited of the trajectory of the basketball program right now. So
I was about to say the what?
a little tongue twisted.
You making up a new hey? I'm about to say don't sound like the Auburn fans now. Be careful. Don't let them rub off on you.
Oh man, but yeah, let's get this win. It starts this Saturday with this win. We got we hit the reset button, refresh. Let's get ready to make a little run right here in the basketball. So we need to just break. So we enjoyed it. Hope we got better. So let's start the second little part of the season now with this game Saturday.
All right. Well, shout out to Alabama men's basketball. Keep winning. Just keep winning, y'all. All right. Let's get into our Q&A. I believe we do have a few questions. We'll take those and then we'll wrap it up for tonight. What do we have? Hope we got some good ones. All right. Shout out to Latoya Billingsley. Does Lonergan transferring mean Milrose coming back? Hopefully not. Maybe it may. I think it has more to do with Keyline coming in and having Austin Mack and him just kind of realizing that competition that's coming in. But what do y'all think?
No, I don't think it means Milrose coming back. I just think all along, I think one of the guys was going to leave anyway.
Yeah.
I think it has more to do with, Lonergan. He's going to strike while the iron's hot. He want to, teams want to get a quarterback early.
Yeah.
So he understands his situation at Bama, and, we wish him well. I liked him personally as a prospect.
I did too, man. Look, I hate that it took this long. Because it looked like he was trying to stick with the program, but it's just, when it's time to go, look at Eli Holstein. He went out to, was it Pitt?
Pitt, yep, and played very well at Pitt.
Yeah, he's been doing well. Maybe, it just sucks, honestly. Yeah. Because I thought Dylan was going to be one of those guys like Mac Jones, where by the time his number is called, he just goes out there and shows out. All he needs is just that 1 year.
Yeah. That's what it's going to be. So, I think wherever he lands, I hope he gets the right fit for him. But I think he's going to be very successful at his next stop.
Definitely. Shout out to him. All right. Plow Jogger. I know all the QBs will get a chance to compete for the starting job next year, but is Russell a shoe-in because he's a DeBoer type of QB? I believe they're just going to compete. And I think that even if by chance they redshirt Keyline, and I almost feel like depending on how well he performs, maybe they should to just have Austin Mack out there, Ty Simpson, who knows? But I think it's going to be a true quarterback competition. It's going to be a battle. What y'all think?
I think we're going to lose another quarterback after spring.
Don't say that. Don't say that. No.
Come spring, the spring game, when the depth chart is set again, we're going to lose another quarterback. You can bet that.
But
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
But okay, but
I don't know who, but I know really. I say there's a.
It won't be Keelan Russell though. It won't be Keelan Russell.
But question. At least when we had Saban, a lot of times we didn't know who that starting QB was going to be until like fall camp time frame or right before the season. So you don't think?
You best believe they're going to know.
Well, hopefully we don't lose anyone else. Maybe they'll kind of, I don't know. Maybe they'll lean a little bit more so towards Ty, the seniority. But that's assuming that he does what he needs to do on the field. So I don't know. What's next? All right, Mike Coleman, what y'all think about Alabama going independent? Honestly, I was literally thinking about that. Like, y'all gonna say no, but I feel like with the way that the committee is going and these games that they like to play year in and year out, let me ask y'all a question because I was thinking about this. Remember a few years ago when CJ Stroud was still the quarterback at Ohio State, and then the top four was Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and TCU. Remember how that played out, right? Remember how it should have been TCU at that number 4 position. Georgia was number 1, but the committee, I truly believe that they intentionally put them at number 3 to play Michigan first, so that because they knew they were going to lose to Georgia. And that's the thing that bothers me, because I feel like even looking at how SMU set up there and lost to Clemson, but they still have SMU ranked higher than Clemson. They pick and choose who they want to pick and choose based on the games that they want to see. And to me, that's not the right way. That's not how the system should be set up. And so I do believe that we should look at that, not to kind of throw out what LSU and different teams have been saying, but I think that when you consider, okay, what's the ultimate goal? If the ultimate goal is to win a national championship, you do have to adapt in a sense. If those are the games that the committee is going to play, we need to stop trying to have all these difficult games during the season where our guys get beat up and you got the Keon Sabbs and different guys, Cole Adams, getting injured in these tougher games. Play the game or you're going to get played at the end of the day. But what y'all think?
I love the SEC. I like, I like going to Atlanta for the SEC championship game. You know what I'm saying? That's like a tradition of mine. So, but
what weight does the conference games hold now with the 12-team playoff if neither one of the teams are going to get penalized? Like,
I don't care about that. I care about me. It's about me. It's all about me.
Okay.
I think it's gonna come down. It's gonna come down to the SEC and the Big Ten what they want to do. If they want to start their own big old conference, and we have our own 16-team playoff or whatever we want to do. But I think Alabama is the SEC. I think we are the SEC. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's going independent.
True. Latoya Billingsley, what if Milroe transfers, gets the right QB coach and wins a Heisman? How will we feel? Well, I did see USC mentioned with Lincoln Riley. I mean, how we feel? We'll be happy for him. I mean, honestly, you want to see the guys win wherever they go, right?
Yeah. I would love to see.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe that's what it takes. That's why I feel like if we did get Ryan Grubb, if we had him, that we would have seen a difference for sure. Because I think Ryan would have been able to either open the playbook a little bit more or be able to further develop Milroe to where he can hit those slants and those certain plays that you kind of want your quarterback to be able to do whenever it's necessary,
Then we'll know without a doubt with Nick Sheridan.
True.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Give us some exposure.
I know. All right. Shout out to Joe Edwards. What type of system is the board trying to run? That's the
$1 million question right there.
And to be honest, we would have been able to, I think if we had a quarterback because ultimately it's good to be a dual threat quarterback to some degree, but to be a dual threat, you have to be good at both dual too, right? Not just running, but passing. You have to be consistent. And we have to realize that you don't go in and you don't recruit these top running backs like a Justice Haynes, Jameer. You don't have these guys like Jam Miller, but then your quarterback is doing all the running. Like we need a guy like Keelan Russell who doesn't really care to run the ball. He wants to throw the ball. I think that if we had that type of scenario this year, we would have really been able to see what DeBoer was trying to do. But unfortunately, we won't know until next year what I think. But what do y'all think about that?
Yeah, that's another thing I want to say. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to run the ball, run it. Don't go sideways. You're going to carry the ball.
Vertical.
Yeah, get vertical.
Yeah. Run it to the side.
Yeah.
Yeah. JM12 Green, the fact that we had no guys on the defensive line, all SEC selection, first round or 13 says everything. That's true.
Yep.
That is true.
We definitely have to get better in the trenches.
Yeah.
Definitely, man.
Thoughts on Keanu going to Vandy?
In the words of Curly Bill, well, back.
I mean, but it does say something that he chose Vandy over Ole Miss, though, right? I mean, that to me that says something. Maybe whatever Ole Miss was offering, he wasn't trying to hear it. He want to go down to
maybe they lowballed him. Maybe Lane lowballed him. I don't know.
And we know we were there for his education.
Okay. Train wreck 70. Bama has to get back to recruiting the state. The cow lovers work the state. Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, I still feel some type of way that we didn't get Peter Woods a couple years ago. He went on to Clemson. And those are the guys you have to get, All right. And then last but not least, Brandon Davis, Crimson Dynasty family. I love y'all. Showing love from Jacksonville, Florida. Roll Tide. Shout out to you. Shout out to Jacksonville as well. Yeah, I wonder, are you going
down there?
Yeah. I'm curious if he's going to go down to, I don't know how far Jacksonville is from, not too far from Tampa. So I wonder if you're going to the game. Yeah. Put in the chat if you're going to the Relia Quest, the Outback. And then honestly, even them calling it Relia Quest, I'm like, y'all are so ridiculous. Like y'all just, because we know we've heard of the Outback Bowl, but you sit up there calling it Relia Quest. Like it's these little small things, like, that you got to really pay attention to, that they trying to be funny. That's why I just hope that if we do show up in this raggedy game, that we just either blow Michigan out, or we just collectively on both sides choose just not to even like we're not even wasting our time. 12 o'clock. Like no, just no. Anyway, okay, well, we're over on time, but any social medias, JB, I'll start with you. Any other shows or any social media that you want to promote?
Y'all can find me on X at @young_ENT_, YouTube Sports Talking with JB, Instagram Sports Talking with JB, here with the Crimson Dynasty every Wednesday night, and on Sunday night Talking Bama with JT and Stephen M. Smith.
All right. And then Dan, what about you?
Yes, you can catch me on X at the Final Whistle Dan. Catch me every Tuesday night on the very same network, the Final Whistle, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Every Wednesday night, right here, the Crimson Dynasty with my awesome co-host here. 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central. And I thank y'all for in the chat. Thank everybody for tuning in, spending your time out today with us. Other than that, roll tide. Hit the like and subscribe button.
All right, and then y'all can find me here every Wednesday night, 6:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 Eastern, hosting Crimson Dynasty. And you can find me on X official @officialcshi without the apostrophe, and then on Instagram at @beauty_of_intelligence. And then we will have Teek's Take tonight right here on the Bama Standard. He'll have guest Chris Stewart on the Voice of Alabama. So be sure to check them out, 9:15 Eastern Standard Time. And that'll do it for us. Thank y'all for the super chats and being active in the live chat, because we do try to keep our eyes on the chat. I try not to as much as I used to, because sometimes we have just people just saying off the wall stuff, and we can't let y'all come up in here trying to cause chaos and discord. So gotta ignore some of it. But anywho. All right. Well, that'll do it for us. Be sure to catch us next week. And hopefully we have better news from the portal. Hopefully not too many more guys from Alabama. Fingers crossed, but we shall see. Visit whitwellsports.com. Shout out to them for the title towel. And we will see y'all next week. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.